Hi Whovians, Harry here, and the fourth episode of Doctor Who Season 2, the episode Lucky Day, recently released. And this episode was crazy. The plot twist was insane. And in this video, I'm going to be going over my thoughts on this episode. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe, also leave a like and comment down below, and let's get into the video. So, let's start off at the start. So, the Doctor and Belinda exit out the TARDIS, and even though this is a Doctor-lite episode, mainly focusing on Ruby Sunday, the Doctor is seen at the start and end of this episode. So he exits the TARDIS with Belinda, and they come across young Conrad, and Conrad will be Ruby's boyfriend later in this episode when he is the adult version of himself. So they come to young Conrad, and the Doctor had just found a 50p, and he says to Conrad, "This is yours because it's your lucky day." And Belinda's like, "Just 1 second, Doctor, what year is this?" And there's this fun back and forth when Belinda is going like from the year 2025 down, and Conrad's just shaking his head like each time she asks, "Is it this year?" Until Conrad eventually just is like, "Fine, I'll tell you the year. It's 2007. New Year's Day or New Year's Eve is either 2007 going into 2008 or 2006 going into 2007. I imagine it's 2006 going into 2007 because the fireworks are already going off around the London Eye." However, Conrad, after the Doctor and Belinda are distracted by the Vindicator, and they are like, "Well, should we take you back to your parents?" But Conrad snatches the 50p from the Doctor, runs off to his mum, and is that his stepdad or whatever? And his mum is a piece of shit, really. She smacks him round the head just because he tells her about the TARDIS and the Doctor and Belinda. And, of course, with this meeting with the Doctor and Belinda, this eventually leads up to him having his own podcast about aliens. And, actually, this is the one part that makes me feel sorry for Conrad's character, because even though his mum was just literally physically abusive to him, he loves her so much that she has like a villa or a house in like France that is paid for all by him. And you just think that his mum showed him like no affection, which is later implied or said by Ruby, yet he still cared for her, and also keeps doing it. So I just feel that makes me feel a bit sorry for Conrad's character. But that is the only thing, and you will later see why. But moving on past this, the Conrad, of course, with his experience seeing the Doctor, the TARDIS, and Belinda, he wants to keep finding these aliens, and he eventually comes across the TARDIS again. However, this time it is the Doctor and Ruby, and they are being chased by the Shriek. And Ruby and Conrad get like vomited on by the Shriek, marking them as future prey. The Doctor says it much better than I just did. But he gives Ruby an antidote that will stop the Shriek hunting them, and he captured the Shriek anyway, like incapacitating it so that Unit could get it anyway. But there are more of them out there, just only one of them on Earth. So the Doctor and Ruby, after dealing with the Shriek, enter back into the TARDIS, and I thought this was going to solve at least some of the 6-month time gap between episode 1, Space Babies, and episode 2, The Devil's Cord, back in Doctor Who season 1. However, this takes place pretty much exactly after the episode The Devil's Cord, like half an hour after that, because Ruby mentions meeting the Beatles. So, yeah, we still don't know what happened in that 6-month time gap. Yes, there is expanded media, but I don't know if that covers the time between the first episode and the second episode in Doctor Who Season 1. but it would have just been nice if we had seen more of that time gap in the actual TV show. But I digress. It's a pretty good introduction to Conrad eventually coming across the Doctor. And this is how he connects to Ruby, because he takes a photo of Ruby as she's entering back into the TARDIS. And he posts it on social media saying, has anyone seen this woman? And what I think is really stupid of Ruby is she turns up at his studio to film the podcast with him. Like, why would you do that? That is so dumb. Someone took a picture of you without you noticing, posted it online where there are probably weirdos that could find you and potentially hurt you, and yet you still go to his podcast. But yeah, anyway, she does, and nothing bad happens at first with Conrad after the episode asking Ruby out for a coffee, and it turns into a couple of dates leading up to their 5th date. And what I don't like is that it is a little fast, this romance. However, it is solved actually in a really fun way with the plot twist of this episode. However, Ruby mentions to Conrad about the Shriek, because that is, of course, when he first came across came across the pairing of the Doctor and Ruby, and what led her to turn up at his podcast. And Ruby has this little scene where she tells Conrad all about the Shriek, and it is incredible storytelling. The way Ruby walks through it, telling Conrad, and the way that they have just filmed this was amazing. With the Shriek sneaking up on him, the lights flickering, it making a very dark and gothic atmosphere, which I thought was amazing. Of course, it is only a dream or just explanation sequence, but it makes it so much more compelling than us just listening to dialogue of Ruby talking about it. But then, of course, moving past that, we move on to their 5th date, where Conrad finally introduces Ruby to his friends, and they go and meet their mate Sparky, who is living out in the countryside, of course a far cry from London. And then it is revealed that it was already revealed that Conrad was vomited on by the Shriek, but Ruby gave him the antidote, but he wanted to guilt Ruby, he was basically, by saying he wanted to be like the Doctor and be brave, so he didn't take the antidote. And she goes, you have no idea what you've just done. And she is really paranoid. Before this, she was already paranoid. And it's because she mentions suffering from, PTSD. And unfortunately, I don't think that's worked on enough. When you travel with the Doctor, you are seeing things way beyond your imagination, crazy things that could potentially scar you for life. And Ruby is reliving through this, and she, says that she is scarred by what she has seen. However, we only get Ruby really explaining it to us. Yes, she is acting a little, on edge, but this episode kind of makes it kind of puts on that she is right to act on her edge. Not the fact that, yes, maybe she is suffering from PTSD and that she should just relax. But it makes this episode, it's like, Ruby, you were right to be on your edge. But that is, directly in the face of the PTSD. And that is because the Shriek attack the village that Ruby and Conrad's friends are in. And she calls Unit, and Unit turn up. However, this is where the chilling reveal starts. And that is that Conrad is actually evil. He has been using Ruby this whole time. And the Shriek are Conrad's friends. And I have to just say, those Shriek costumes are amazing. I think they are too high class for Conrad and his friends to make. Yes, Conrad is probably an industry plant. He has a whole studio. He has loads of money from millions of subscribers coming in. He is a tax dodger as well, so he has a lot of money. But still, I think those costumes are incredibly, expensive. I did watch Doctor Who Unleashed, and I knew that they are incredibly expensive. So, just for that to come in, it's just, Yeah, insane. But yes, they are fake Shriek. And just the chill as Conrad goes to Ruby, I had to put up with you. Oh, all this crying about the doctor. Oh, and had to put up with you kissing me, the lip gloss. You are, well, basically he is disgusted by her. And this comes like almost out of nowhere. I did think that this was going to happen because there was a he was seen in promotional pictures with a think tank hat on, and he is part of think tank. And if you don't know what they are an organisation that opposed UNIT back in the Fourth Doctor's era. So it was likely that he was going to turn out to be evil. But the way he turns on it, and his friends live streaming UNIT, like, hey, you've come running to point a bunch of guns at some kids. You sicken me. And they were like, don't try getting physical or trigger happy because we are live streaming this. And this is so 2020s. That everything is live streamed nowadays to basically these kids to fool UNIT. And yeah, really, it's kind of Ruby's fault. I mean, she let her guard down, even though this episode posed that she should have been on her guard, yet also that she shouldn't have been, because she has PTSD. Make up your mind, episode. Should she be on her guard or not? Because you give us both options, with her falling for Conrad, but then also her not trusting anything about this small country town. However, she shouldn't have trusted Conrad, because, yeah, he turned out to be a right asshole. So, yes, of course, with this ambush on UNIT being live streamed, everyone turns against them. Taxpayers demanding their money back because that is funding UNIT, and they think that, of course, all the aliens, because of Conrad, are fake. And Conrad goes on a press tour. The Trinity Wells show returns. Of course, Trinity Wells featured as a news reporter in the first Russell T Davies era, and then she returned in the 60th anniversary special, The Giggle, with her own show. And then he even goes on the one show Conrad is on that, talking about, again, UNIT and how they were pointing guns at him, and everyone is just falling in love with Conrad and trusting him. And it only gets worse for UNIT. Because Conrad manages to break into UNIT HQ with the help of someone on the inside, Jordan. And yeah, I was on edge. I always thought there was something weird about him from the start. But yes, Jordan, who managed to, well, get a job at UNIT, breaks Conrad in. And, well, Conrad kills him because Jordan didn't want anyone to die, but Conrad doesn't kill him, shoots him, almost fatally wounds him. He's fine. He does survive at the end of this episode, Jordan. But yes, Conrad shoots a friend who helped him get in, and the reason why Conrad is going after UNIT so much, and not just the Doctor, is that because he originally tried to get a job at UNIT. However, Kate did not trust him, and she was right to not trust him, of course, with all that has happened. So he is dressing up this attack on UNIT, saying that he's the good guy, just because he wants revenge for not getting a job. And this episode handles Kate Stewart really weirdly, because she is a badass, yet there is a characteristics that people have always moaned about her, because Conrad, of course, insults the Brigadier, which is Kate's dad, and she is like, don't you talk about my father in that way. However, she goes almost full scorched off on Conrad, because, yeah, well, he's been harbouring this from the start, since he didn't get that job at UNIT, yet she is like, look, you've got followers watching this, I'll show you what you've got to worry about. And she releases the Shriek. Yes, she releases it. And it attacks Conrad because, of course, he didn't take the antidote to the Shriek's secretion. And he gets his arm cut off, but bit, and he is begging for his life. Begging, and he's like, sorry, I surrender. Yes, these aliens are real. I'm sorry, I was lying about everything. And Ruby, tases the Shriek. and saves Conrad's life. And he's like, sheepishly, thank you. And she's just like, go to hell. Because she trusted Conrad, she got into a relationship that really no one could ever live up to the Doctor. And she trusted him, and he just stabbed her in the back. However, of course, as I just mentioned, the Shriek doesn't stay down for long and bites his arm. His arm does, like, stay attached with, like, this metal thing that we later see him in prison. I don't know how he would have wound up in prison, because even though public opinion turned back in favour of UNIT, that Stand With UNIT was actually a hashtag at the end of this episode, he still wouldn't have gone to prison for this, I don't think. Maybe for shooting someone. Yeah, maybe for attempted murder. Yeah, maybe that's why he's in prison, actually. And the Doctor visits him in his prison cell. And he goes, you have to be invited onto my ship, Conrad, but you are special for all the wrong reasons. And do you know what? If you want spoilers, I'll tell you how you die. And the reason the Doctor, of course, is on about spoilers is that Conrad says, have you met your friend Belinda Chandra yet? And the Doctor has not. This Doctor has not. So this Doctor is from before the 24th of May, 2025. So why didn't he get involved? Why did he just leave Ruby and UNIT to handle this? Where was he? He has not been able to not get back to Earth, because this is the Doctor before he has met Belinda Chandra. So Doctor, where were you? Why didn't you help? I don't know why this Doctor didn't help, but since he can get to Earth, this is the Doctor before he has met Belinda Chandra, before the Earth is destroyed. Yet he still... I don't know why he doesn't. But, of course, this finally answers the mystery of who told the Doctor about Belinda. It was Conrad. And the Doctor is like, don't tell me spoilers. You want spoilers? You die. You die at age 49, which is pretty young, in a prison cell filled with hate and anger and revenge, just burning you from the inside. You will die here, Conrad. And Conrad's like, yeah, I don't care what you say. Get off my planet. And this just brings back memories of the Doctor's time with Clara, when Clara was mad at him, and she's like, you breathe our air, you walk our Earth, you can help the human race. And I think the Doctor really feels this when someone like Conrad can call Earth his planet, someone that just wants to destroy and hate, and the Doctor, who has so much love, so much energy and time to burn, as he puts it, can say that to him, and technically be right. But yes, the performance from Jonah Howard-King, who plays Conrad, was just amazing. The turn he takes, how dark he is, how unfeeling he is. He doesn't care when there's guns pointed at him. He actively enjoys it. He enjoys causing chaos. He enjoys taunting and hating and breaking Ruby down to a point where she may never have recovered. She enjoys killing people by saying, UNIT, maybe you killed him. Maybe he never existed, when he literally just shot him a couple of minutes ago. And he is incredibly intelligent as well, and managing to manipulate not only Ruby, but UNIT and all the people that watched his videos. Basically, the whole world. And that is all down to Jonah Howard-King's acting, and also Pete McTighe's writing. I don't think, he wrote Kablam, and was it Praxius before? Not amazing episodes, but I think he absolutely blew it out the water with this episode. It was amazing. And of course, it was great to see Millie Gibson again. Yes, again, she does feel, unfortunately, a little bit out of her depth with Ruby. Of course, being completely outplayed by Conrad, but I won't feel too bad for her, because he did have everyone fooled. But yeah, she was a bit out of her depth in this episode. And of course, another standout of this episode was Anita Dobson as Mrs. Flood, because she only has a few lines, but she goes to Conrad's, Sal, and it's like, it's your lucky day again. I can let you out, because you have more to do for me in the future, which I think is amazing. The way that she handles, she carries like gravitas with her. There is all eyes are on her whenever she pops up. And it is amazing. And I can't wait to see what Conrad gets up to in the finale. Because yes, it looks like he is being released by Mrs. Flood. And potentially, those two will bring about the end of the world. And to be honest, I was a bit worried about Lucky Day. I was like, how are they going to manage a storyline with the Doctor and Belinda? A story about Ruby and dealing with life after the Doctor? How are they going to manage the Conrad and Ruby relationship? How are they going to employ Unit in this episode? And it seemed to work. The pacing didn't seem that fast. Again, the only thing that seemed a little forced was the relationship. And that actually had an explanation show that it was all for fake. Conrad really wanted to get in a relationship with Ruby. And it's just amazing how they do it. So this episode, my ranking for it will be an 8.5 out of 10. I was really close to doing 9, but I think there are a couple of things dragging it down. Of course, Ruby, the PTSD not really being explained. Conrad kind of flip-flopping, becoming an absolute megamind, yet he seems like an absolute goof as well. Maybe that was on purpose, and also Unit being completely outclassed by a couple of kids. And the Doctor not showing up in this episode when he really could have. But that is just my thoughts. I thought this episode was really good, and yeah, it has been a lot better than season 1 so far. 73 yards. This is how you handle a Ruby-centric episode. I feel like I have just become a 73 yards hater at this moment, but I can't help it that Lucky Day was better than 73 yards, at least in my opinion. But I want to know your thoughts. Let me know what you thought of this episode down in the comments below. Did you like Lucky Day? Is it better than the other Ruby-centric episode from last season, 73 yards? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like. Also subscribe and share it out, and I will see you in the next one.